down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head was screwed on, not just right. It could be perhaps his shoes were too tight. But I think that all mostly likely reason of all may have been his heart was 2 sizes too small. Whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm light windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging their mistletoe wreaths, and they're hanging their stockings. He snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled with his grinchy fingers, nervously drumming, I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew. Merry, merry! All the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early and rush for their toys, and then all the noise, all the noise, noise. That's one thing he hated, the noise. Then the Who's young and old would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. They would feast the Who puddings and Who roast beast, which was something Grist wouldn't stand the least. And then they do something that he liked least of all. Every Who down Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing. And the more Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I put up with it now. I put up with it. But now I must stop the Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat. He made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. He chuckled and chuckled with a great Grinchy trick. With his coat and his hat, he looked just like Saint Nick. All he needed was a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scared, there is no one to be found. That didn't stop the old Grinch. No, it didn't. The Grinch simply said, if I can't find the reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread. He tied a big horn on top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks and a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, giddy up. The sleigh started down toward the homes where the Whos lay sneezing at the towers. All the windows were dark, quiet, and the snow filled the air, and all the Whos were dreaming sweet dreams without care. This is stop number 1, the old Grinch Claus hissed. He climbed the roof, empty bags first. Then he slid down the chimney in a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He stuck only once, but for a moment or two, he stuck his head out the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings hung in a row. These stockings he grinned the first thing to go. Then he slithered and slunk, with a smile almost unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every present, pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboard, tricycles, popcorn, and plums, and he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slunk into the ice box. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the Who roast beast. Then he cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that old Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. And he stuffed up all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove, when he heard a small sound like a coo of a dove. He turned around fast and saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who was no more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. He stared at the Grinch and he he said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But, you know, the old Grinch was so smart and slick, he thought up a lie and he thought it up quick.
Hi, Daddy. Don't.
"There's light in this tree that won't light one side. I'm taking it home to my workshop. My dear, I'll fix it up there while I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. He patted her head and he got her a cold drink and sent her to bed. Why, Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup. He went to the chimney and stuffed up the tree. Then the last thing he took was a log for the fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the liar. On the walls left nothing but hooks and some wire. And then the speck of food that was left in the house was too small even for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to other houses, leaving crumbs much too small for their Who mouses. It was dawn, all the Who's still in bed, the Who's still snoozed when he packed up a sled. Packed it up with presents and ribbons and wrappings and tags, the tinsel and trimmings in his tappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mint Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Hoo, poo, the Who's, the Grinch humming. They'll find out how the Grinch is coming. They'll find out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up, and I know what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will cry, boo-hoo. That's a noise, he grinned with the Grinch. I simply must hear, so he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. He stared down and low, he stared down to grow. Then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, the sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but what was merry very? He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes, then he shook. He was shocking surprise. Every Who down Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. It hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came somehow or other. It just came the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? He came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. Then he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas perhaps means a little bit more. And what happened then? Then in the Whoville say, the Whoville. Well, in Whoville they say the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart felt quite tight, he whizzed a load through the bright morning light. He brought back the toys, the food, the feast. He himself, the Grinch carved the roast beast.